Greetings to all and a warm welcome to our latest live webcast, Mastering Feature-Based Licenses. We're thrilled you've decided to join us for this enlightening masterclass. With each episode, we provide new highlights, technical tips, and success stories that will leave you inspired and ready to get your protection, licensing, and security techniques another step closer to perfection. At WIBU-SYSTEMS, we empower software publishers and intelligent device manufacturers with cutting-edge technologies, new business models, and tailor-made consulting training. Let us help you upgrade, optimize, and automate your entire license lifecycle management so you can focus on monetizing your business at a higher level. My name is Daniela Previtali, Global Marketing Director of WIBU-SYSTEMS, and I'm delighted to have you here with us today. We are joined by Rüdiger Kügler, VP Professional Services and Security Expert, and Jörg Jans, Professional Services, both from the headquarters of WIBU-SYSTEMS. To give you a roadmap for today's session, here is what we'll be covering. With feature-based licensing, you can create flexible and modular licensing models tailored to your software needs. This approach enables seamless management of separable and inseparable bundles, nested license structures, and individual module items. It supports advanced scenarios such as feature upgrades, returns, and exchanges, ensuring precise control and scalability. By leveraging these techniques, you can optimize licensing for complex software environments with maximum efficiency and adaptability. Before we dive into the content, let's quickly address a few housekeeping items. For all of you tuning in today, we set aside a special segment at the end of the session, exclusively for Q&A. We warmly encourage you to drop your questions into the live chat box as they come to mind. If we can't get to your question during the live discussion, rest assured we'll make it a priority to engage with you individually at a later time to address your queries. This session is being recorded, and a link to the on-demand replay will be sent straight to your inbox within the next couple of days. This way, you can revisit the insights shared today at your leisure. And don't forget, stick around for the entire live session and seize the opportunity to win an invaluable 4 hours of personalized CodeMeter consultation with our industry-leading experts. As the webinar concludes, a new browser tab will automatically open, presenting you with a quick quiz. We'll randomly select a lucky winner from those who answer correctly and make the big announcement when we release the webinar replay. Kindly note that if you win, you'll be ineligible for any other prize draws we host in 2025. Be also aware that this brief questionnaire includes additional questions aimed at gauging the quality of this masterclass. While these questions are optional, your valuable feedback will empower us to enhance the quality of our offerings and tailor our online events more precisely to meet your specific needs. And now, without any more delay, I'm delighted to hand over the reins to Rüdiger. The stage is all yours.
Yeah, thank you for this introduction, Daniela. My name is Rüdiger Kügler, and in the next hour, we want to show you how to create and use feature-based licenses. We will talk about different options, how to realize feature-based licenses, show the pros and the cons for the different options. And this is part 3 of our series of webinars about CodeMeter License Central, how to use CodeMeter License Central. And maybe Jörg, you can summarize the first 2 parts.
Yeah, warm welcome from my side as well. And as Rüdiger said, let's recap the first 2 parts of this series. In the first part, we had the setup of a completely new License Central, but of course, if you have a long-running system, it doesn't hurt to check the global settings from time to time. We showed how to import a new firm code in case of on-premise hosting. We configured the available firm codes with the basic settings or the optional settings that can be used for some support processes. We showed the global settings for license creation. So for the default settings for every new license that will be created in CodeMeter License Central. And we showed some settings for support processes. What can you do if a license get lost or a container get lost? To replace the license with or allow a new activation for already activated license, and what to do with the previous one that seems to be lost. And at the end, we showed you how to set up container types. A container type is the place where a license can be stored. We have the dongles, we have the cloud containers, and of course the CM Act licenses. And we showed you the different binding types, and for container types, some additional settings for support processes as well. In the second part of the webinar, we showed you how to create items in CodeMeter License Central. For that, we first introduced some product item options, mainly those that we use in most of our projects, but we had an overview over the rest of the product items as well. Then we created some easy or simple license models by creating items in CodeMeter License Central. And at the end of this webinar, we showed you some false friends or best practice tips, what to avoid, what to do from the experience we gathered in our webinars. So, and with this simple licenses or with these simple items, we were able to do very easy and simple license models, but in complex software, that's not enough, and therefore Rüdiger will show you or explain to you what is behind feature-based licenses.
And if I see here false friends, one of the last things we said in the previous webinar of the series was that the feature map might be not the best idea to be used for feature-based licenses, even if it is called feature map. But let's take a look back. What do we mean with feature-based licenses? So typically a feature-based license means you sell your software in different configurations. So this could be something, you have a basic version, you have a professional version, an enterprise version, architect version, ultimate and super ultimate, and other versions of your software. Or you say your customer can buy a basic package and then he can buy some add-ons like change font, like hex view, like C# syntax highlighting if we speak of a notepad or of a small editor. And so selling your product with different features. At the end, we also use the word modular licensing. So feature-based licensing, modular licensing, at the end, we mean the same. So and the question is, why should I use feature-based licenses? And one big reason for this is you have a low-cost entry for new customers. So if you speak of your software product costs €1,000 or $1,000, and then there are customers who say, oh, I would use your product, but this product is the price is too high and you have too many functionalities. And so maybe starting with a low-cost version of $200, $300 or euros and saying, okay, this is the entrance. It has reduced functionality, but it's already fitting for these customers, and then selling additional features later. Of course, this can increase your after-sales business so that you can sell or upsell these features. And you are more flexible in pricing, so you can adapt your prices to your special markets, your special customers, and your special needs at the end. If you speak of feature-based licenses, I told you, false friends, we have different options how to realize this. And I think the first option are bundles, and Jörg, you can say something about the bundles.
Yeah, bundle is an option that is used quite often if you have simple items, because in that case, each item has one product code. So for each module you want to sell separately or license separately, you create exactly one item in CodeMeter License Central, and this item has then an individual product code. This has the benefit that with an individual product code, you have a separate root key for each feature. And this enhances the security because if you protect your license, you have multiple protection keys. So even if one part should be cracked, which usually does not happen, the other parts are still safe. That's a confusing sentence. Each option needs to be set individual. As I said, you have different items, and therefore you need to add all the product item options you need for your module into this item, and therefore you can set every product item option for this item, but you need to set exactly those you need. And so it's confusing, but if we see the demo, it makes more sense afterwards. And in the end, a bundle is just a logical grouping of individual items. As we learned in the second part of the webinar, we have the simple default items created, and in this case, we just put them together to one logical group in CodeMeter License Central, and this group can then be sold to your customer.
Yeah, feature map, my false friend. So in this case, you're using simple bits in the feature map to activate features like yes or no. So you have one product code for your product, and inside this product code or this product item, you are using the feature map. And here we use the same root key for all features. So I'd like to explain this a little bit more in detail in CodeMeter. CodeMeter has the option that we store cryptographic keys inside of the CodeMeter container, the CM-ACK license, the CM dongle, the CM cloud container. And these keys can be used to protect the software, to encrypt the software, and thus protect it against reverse engineering. So in case of a dongle and in the case of a cloud container, these keys are stored in a secure black box. So they're stored inside of the firmware of the dongle. They are stored inside of the server of the CodeMeter Cloud, hosted, operated by WIBU. In case of a CM-ACK license, they are stored in an encrypted license file on the machine, and they are, of course, used in the memory of the target system. So, and to make the security as high as possible, we define that there is one key for every product code. So if you have one product code, you have one key. If you have a second product code, you have a second key. And if you're using these two different keys for encrypting two different features, this means if a user has only feature one, he has theoretically no chance, practically, of course, yes. So practically and theoretically, no chance to decrypt and thus reverse engineer the second module where he doesn't have a key. In case of using the feature map, we have the same root key, and with the feature map, we have a key derivation. So there are still different keys, but they are derived from a root key, which is stored inside of the license. And in case of the CM-ACK license, this derivation takes part in the memory. So if you have one feature, you theoretically have the key for the other feature. And in this case, there's a theoretic chance to crack a feature even if you don't have a license for the feature. Practically, both are very secure, but theoretically from the system, it might be possible, and that's why saying having different root keys for each feature offers a higher security level. There are no individual options. So because if we have one product code, we have only one set of product item options. So either it's a subscription or it's not a subscription. Either it is a 10-user floating network license or a single license, but it's not like I have 5 seats for this and 3 seats for this. And of course, and this is, I think, my biggest concern, it is limited to 32 features. And so I can activate only 32 different features within one product. And I think this is the biggest limitation.
So the next implementation option would be to use some of the multiple data fields, either protected data or one of the 128 extended protected data fields. Each data field has a size of 256 bytes, and you can store your own bit mask in this extended protected data field to enable single features. It's the same as with the feature map. You have the same root key because you have then only one license and one product code, and it's difficult to set individual options. You could encrypt this somehow in your bitmap, but that would make things even worse in my opinion. And worst thing of using protected data is that you don't have support in CodeMeter License Central, or phrase it better, you have no native support in CodeMeter License Central. You need to do everything by yourself because only you know how the bits are set. And even on the other side, on the software side, running on the computer of your customer, everything needs to be done by your application because CodeMeter Runtime doesn't evaluate data fields. That's completely your own implementation, and therefore, in my opinion, it's the worst of all implementation options.
So last but not least, the module items. And in case of the module items, we have also different product codes. But in this case, instead of having a flat list like we have with the bundle, we have a parent-child relationship between parent product code and this child product code. In former times, we were called this also nested product items. The official name is module items, but nested product items and module items are synonym in the CodeMeter universe. And due to the fact that we have a different product code for every feature, we have a separate root key, increasing the security. Similar to the bundles, we have the option to set each option individually. So we can say this is a subscription, this is a trial license for this feature, this is a 5-user network license, this is a 6-user network license. So we can set every option individual, and there's a parent-child relationship with some inheritance that we see later on the next 2 slides.
And you may see the slightly difference between a bundle and a module item. With the module item, you can set each option individually. With the bundle, you need to set everything individually. That's something we see then in the demo. But let's do a short comparison of the four implementation options, and let's start again with the bundles. Security is very high, as Rüdiger explained. With the key derivation, you have one product code for every item, and you have therefore multiple different keys. You can go up to 800 modules. This is more or less not a static number, but it's our experience that more than 800 modules will things slow down or aren't optimum. Updates with CodeMeter License Central are usually simple until medium. There are some glitches that needs to be kept in mind, and therefore it's simple to medium. You have no grouping of licenses in the CodeMeter runtime. That's will be seen after we showed you how to use a bundle. Borrowing of licenses with license transfer is possible, but in this case, you need to do it individual for every single product code. And of course, you have individual license options. As I always mentioned, you need to set all the stuff. So you can set an individual expiration date, you can set an individual pay-per-use counter, you can set an individual number of concurrent users. And if you use one of these license options, you need to set it. And you have no inheritance. Every item or every part of a bundle, every component is separate, and therefore there is no relation between all this stuff when it comes to activating or transferring them to a target PC.
Yeah, if you take a look at the feature map, then we see there are from the security 2 pluses and not the 3 that we have with bundles. So if we speak of a dongle or if a cloud container, I would also say it has the same security like a bundle. In case of a CMAC license, as explained, the security is a little bit lower because we have the same root key and the key derivation is done in the memory. The limitation is to 32 number of modules, as I told you. And in difference to the bundles, the updates in CodeMeter License Central are more complex. You can set and remove bits in the feature map, but this is a very complex thing. So you need to think in binary arithmetics. So meaning if your adding the second bit, then you need to add +2. If you want to add the third bit, you need to add +4. If you want to add the fourth bit, you need to add +8. And so it's, I would say, not that easy. That's why we wrote here complex. Due to the fact that every features are in one product code, we have a grouping. They belong together in the runtime. If we do this with borrowing, we have one entry, so the one entry is borrowed completely. But the disadvantage beside of the 32 features is we have no individual expiration date, no individual counter, no individual number of current users, and of course also no inheritance.
When it comes to protected data, we rate the security slightly lower as with the feature map. You have only one product code, everything is stored there, and therefore everything that Rüdiger said for the feature map is the same for the protected data, but the feature map at least is part of the key derivation, and with protected data, you're completely out of the loop. The only benefit of using a self-implemented mechanism is that you have a higher number of modules that can be addressed. A data field, as I said, is 265 bytes long, and you can set every bit individual. If one data field is not enough, you can use additional ones, so you can address more than 800 modules. Updates with CodeMeter License Central are completely individual. As I said, there is no native support for such a mechanism, and therefore you need to do everything by yourself. And all the other comparison options, grouping, borrowing, and the rest is the same as with the feature map. It's as Rüdiger explained before.
Yeah, and last but not least, once again, the module items, highest security because we have different root keys. Features or modules up to 800, even in some projects more. Updates with License Central, simple. Footnote. Simple if we can use the replace model. More complex, or Jörg would call it update hell, in case of if we cannot use the replace model. So we will check this later during our samples. What does this mean? Of course, the features belong together. So in runtime, you see that they are grouped together. It is one major entry, one parent entry with the children inside, and so we can borrow it completely. And we can have an individual expiration date, we can have an individual counter, we can have individual amount of concurrent users, and if we don't want to have this features will be inherited automatically from the parent to the child, and this I think is the greatest benefit of the module items. Jörg, how does this inheritance work?
Yeah, inheritance is something you need to look at when it comes to module items. It's no problem for somehow static license options like expiration time or data fields. But the countable ones, license quantity and later on unit counter, there is a certain rule how these countable license options are used. If you inherit the license quantity from the parent to your modules, you still have an individual counter per module item. So the module item has in the end the same license quantity as the parent. If you override it in your module item explicitly, you still have the individual counter, but in this case, it is really stored in the module item, and therefore exactly that stored value is available. If we do this with an example of if the parent has 2 and you have 2 module items and nothing is inherited or everything is inherited, nothing is overwritten, then you can access 2 times the parent, 2 times module 1, 2 times module 2. So the 2 are available in every attached module or inherited module. If you override in module 2 the license quantity with an explicit value of 1, then you can use 2 times the parent, 2 times module A, but module B can only be used once. So the license quantity in the end is counted where the access takes place. And then it doesn't matter if it is the license quantity was inherited or overwritten. The value is attached to the product code either explicitly or implicitly.
Yeah, the unit counter has a different meaning and thus it has a different handling. So the license quantity is counting concurrent sessions. The unit counter is using for pay-per-use. And so in this case, we say if we have it on the parent item, then it will inherit the unit counter value to the children, but it's a shared counter between the parent and the children. So coming back to your example, we have one parent and we have two children, and we have 2 units in the parent. And then we can share them, we can use them also inside the children, but we can only use it twice. So we can use it either 2 times at the parent, 1 time at the parent, 1 time at 1 children, 2 times at the children, 1 children, 2 children, but we can use it 2 times at the end in sum, because in contrary to this, the license quantity can be used 2 times for every inherited children. If we override it, then of course we have an individual counter per module item or per child. And in this case, it is counted inside the child. So the effective counter is counted where the unit counter is located.
So that was a lot of theory and much information, and therefore I think it's time to show you a demo directly with CodeMeter License Central. For this demo, we use a regular demo License Central edition with all the items that are available there, so our sample notepad items. But for this webinar, we added some additional items for the bundle mechanism that we usually don't have in the demo edition. So let's log in. And let's take a look at the items we prepared.
So we prepared a few bundle items. They are calling to 02 200. And here so we see we have 1 item for every feature, and we have 1 major item for the complete bundle. And let's take a look into the item for the feature. And what we see is similar to the items that we created already during the second part of this webinar series. We have the type is a default type. We have an item ID, which is the ID which is usually sent from the ERP system when the license should be created. We have a name, and we have the different container types. So in this case, we have the container types defined on every feature. And here we have now the license entry. One of the recommendations is to have 1 product code per item. Also 1 recommendation we did during the last webinar. And what we see here, we have the definition of the product code. We have the definition that this is a floating user license. We want to make it a little bit more complex. And we have a license quantity which can be set on order. And this is at the end, the whole feature. And if we take a look at the main product, which includes the feature, then we see we have also the container types. We have also a product code, but here, Jörg, we have the components. And what does the component mean?
Yeah, and in this case, the components are the bundle. So with the main item, these components can be sold together as 1 package. And there are some special settings that needs to be set for each component. The first one is the component mode. With the component mode, you have 3 options. The first one, or the easy ones, are selectable and deselectable. So it's either pre-selected or you need to select it individually. Interesting is the necessary. Necessary means if I activate or if I sell the main item, this is in any case this item or this component will be sold as well in any case. And you remember from the false friends last time where we said, don't use two product codes in one item. Rüdiger mentioned it before already. If you need two product codes, then our recommendation is to use a technical item for the second product code you need as well, and then add this second this technical item as component and set it to necessary, and then you have exactly the same effect, but the processes are much more convenient or easier. With technical item, I mean an item that is not intended to be sold. Of course, you can use any item as a necessary component to have the second product code as well. The next thing you need to set is the order specific mode. As Rüdiger showed you, every item we modeled in this case has one order defined parameter for the seats. And if you set the order specific mode to merge, like we did it in our sample, you only need to enter the license quantity once for the main product, and every component with the same name as the parent gets the same value. If you set it to separate for a component, then you need to specify the license quantity, in this case twice, once for the main item and once for the component, or in this case worse, if you have 6 components, you need to specify it 7 times. And the interesting point, or the last point you need to set, is the activation mode. Again, you have merge and separate. Merge means the bundle can only be transferred as one. So if you create an order, a bundle with 3 components, you get in the end 4 licenses, but you can only activate or transfer or select the bundle item for transfer, and the 3 components will be activated or transferred to the target container in the same operation, and you don't have any chances to interfere or to split them up to separate systems. If you set it to separate, then it's just a logical grouping. You have one sales item, and the children can be activated or transferred to the target system individually. In this case, you could even have a scenario where component 1 is activated to system A and component 2 is activated to system B. So that's something I see very seldomly in my projects. Usually we have the activation mode merge and say, this is a bundle, this belongs together, and we activate all the licenses in one step.
Okay, now let's make a sample. So we go to our items, we search for the O2 minus 200. So we select the major product, and we say we want to create a license. And as Jörg mentioned, we have the components, and due to the fact that we said they are selectable, they are not selected but visible here, so we can say we want to have the first 3, for instance, and we can add an amount of seats. Let's say we start with 5 seats. And due to the fact that we use the order specific mode merge, we only enter the value seats once, and then it will be written automatically to the parent or to the major item and to the component item. I would not call them parent and child. So to the major item and to the component items. So I click on OK. We need to enter a custom ID 7777, for instance, and OK. And now we have a ticket, and now the rest is the default procedure that you already know from License Central, License Portal, Web Depot, Gateway Software Activation Wizard. We enter the ticket, we click on Activate License, and due to the fact that in the configuration we saw dongle, ACT, or cloud container, I'm choosing the ACT license, create container automatically, activate selected licenses now. And my expectation is now that we have a license with the first 3 features, so the basic or the main and the first 3 components. So we should have 4 product codes inside of the license, and all of them should have an license quantity is the name, so license quantity of 5. So we have this container here, we open WebAdmin, and we see 1, 2, 3, 4 items, so 0, 1, 2, and 3 with the end, and the license quantity of 5.
But what you see as well is that the relation between the parent item of the bundle and the components is lost. So inside of CodeMeter runtime, those 4 licenses are on the same level, all are individual product codes in the container. But Rüdiger, what do I need to do if I say, oh, I need another module as well?
Okay, if you need another module, and this is definitely one of the advantages of these bundles, we simply can say we want to create a new order, let's say also for 7777, and we simply pick the item that we want to use, 2 minus 200. And if I remember it right, we had the first 3, so the change font, hex, hue, and C#. And so let's simply add the Python. And also 5, should we also use 5, Jörg? I say we also use 5. And okay, and okay. So, and now I have a new ticket. I take the new ticket. I will enter the new ticket home. I will enter the new ticket here. And activate licenses. I'm selecting the same container, but of course I could select a different container, by the way. So, and now activate the license, upload receipt, cool. And if we take a look at the WebAdmin, we will see now that we have the option 6 now also available.
So the main plus of the bundle mechanism that you can sell the items individual is, on the other hand, the main downside, because you still don't have this tight binding of the additional module. So as Rüdiger said, the module could have been activated to another container, and therefore you don't have any chance to bind this on customer side. But I have many projects where exactly this mechanism is intended, and therefore it's okay to use bundles.
Jörg, what if I want to change the license quantity? Let's say I want to have 1 seed more for the Python. What do I need to do?
Our items for the samples are all modeled as update add items. So update add means if the item is already there, the license quantity will be increased on the existing item, and if not, a new item will be created. So in this case, we just create an additional order with the license quantity that is bought additionally, and activate this license to the container, and then it gets added to the existing one. So Rüdiger already created the new order with the single item and added 1 seed. And if we now take a look into the container, we see that for the one item for the one product code, the license quantity is now no longer 5 but 6.
Of course, we can do this with multiple product codes at the same time. We can create a new order, 7777, for instance. We take the major item of the bundle, 2 minus 200, this one, and say, okay, we want to add, let's say, 3 seeds, and we want to add the 3 seeds for the change font. We want to add this for the Java and for C#, for instance. Okay. And if we activate the license now on the target computer, I go here, oops, and next, and then activate licenses. And now my expectation is that the main item will be added by 3, and also that this selected 3 features, so feature 1, 3, and 5 will be added with additional 3. And so our result at the end is 8 and 8 here. Here 5, here 8, here 3, because we did not have this feature. And so in this case, it is state 6 with the Python, because we didn't touch the Python extension.
So that was everything very straightforward, but what should I do if I want to remove an item from the container? If the customer comes and says, I don't need this item any longer.
Yeah, so if this was a separately sold item like the Python, we can simply withdraw the license. If this is an item which was included in the bundle, then there are different ways which are not that easy. So removing a feature, if it was part of a bundle, is definitely not the advantage of the bundle items, because this is not straightforward, and this is more complex. Either we need to use a replace, we need to use delete items, meaning that at the end, if you want to have a reporting statistics about completely sold items, you need to count your created items, you need to count the delete items, and then you need to calculate the effective amount of licenses that you sold. And so removing a feature in this use case is definitely not easy and not straightforward.
Yeah, that's why we rated the update mechanisms at simple to medium. It's simple to add new items, to increase some item options like license quantity, but it gets very difficult to remove them. And there's another thing to come. What do I do if I want to decrease the license quantity?
There is an option which is possible, but not sure if I should suggest this. So we can say we have a license quantity with a minus. So let's take the Python and reduce it by 4. It was minus 2, minus 02, 200. So the Python and the Python extension seeds minus 3, for instance. Okay, and okay. So, and now let's go to the portal. Let's enter the ticket here, and let's say, okay, we want to do this update, and this update will reduce the amount of licenses by 3, and so the amount of this feature should be now 3.
So you see it works, but I would add this definitely to the false friends because CodeMeter License Central internally has many automatisms and mechanisms. And if it comes to removing licenses, for example, you want to return some licenses back to CodeMeter License Central, then something like that could lead to an unexpected behavior, because you remove the previously available items with the value or the amount of 6, and then only the minus 3 would be available or remain on the container. And therefore, you may get situations that you don't expect, and therefore I wouldn't recommend to use negative license quantity in items. But that was the hint for the last thing we want to show you, how to return the licenses that Rüdiger has activated to his container back to CodeMeter License Central, for example, if you want to switch the system. And you may have noticed it during the demo. For everything we did, we had one single ticket. And therefore, if you want to remove the licenses, you need to enter all the tickets. There was one missing in the last one. One character, the first character is missing.
Oh, thank you.
So you have to enter all tickets, and you see that's a quite complex process. Of course, if you have something like License Portal where you see all the licenses you have in your user account, it's slightly easier, but it still leaves some work to do.
So now we can rehost all the licenses, and we can deactivate the selected ones. It's a little bit strange, Jörg, why we don't see the other ones as they cannot be, the Python language cannot be rehosted. Maybe in the item configuration we forgot to offer the rehost. Let's check this. Python. Split allowed, deactivation allowed, no. So there was a mistake in the configuration. That's why we can rehost everything, but not the Python extension. Okay, so simply let's continue with this, and let's say we can now activate the licenses somewhere else. We can now use a new container. For instance, getting a new container, activate licenses, and now in this case, the licenses were rehosted. And so what we see here is that rehosting means you need to put all the tickets together to do the rehost. And there could be problems because in the configuration there was some mistakes. So a few licenses were rehostable, a few licenses were not rehostable. And with this updating licenses for bundles are easy if you go straight forward. And if we add something, if we extend the license or the features, if we want to remove stuff, if we want to rehost stuff, then it becomes complex. And we see this here with the configuration, even if a wrong configuration could be there without finding it on the first side.
Yeah, it looks like I missed that option in part 2 of our webinar series, where we showed you how to override the global settings in individual items. So let's go to the next part of the webinar, and this is the one we always recommend in the workshops as a first approach to use licensing in CodeMeter License Central. We usually always start with use module items and use replace orders, and then everything is fine. And only if it turns out that the sales process doesn't allow to do this, we switch to other options, or we look for other options. Let's take a look at the module item mechanism. Rüdiger already opened the change font module item, and you notice a module item has no own container definition. So the main difference between the bundle mechanism we showed before and the module item mechanism is that a module cannot live alone. Component can be sold separately. A module item is always tightly bound to his parent. Therefore, we need to take a look into the module item parent. And there we see the same stuff as we had in the bundle parent. We have the sales stuff with item ID, item name. We have the container types where the licenses can be transferred to. We have the product code and the product item options that are set in the parent. And then we have the module item list, and there we now have the separate module items attached. And we have the same mechanisms for the module item mode with necessary, selectable, deselectable. We have the same mechanism with the order specific mode with separate and merge. But you see, there is no such thing as an activation mode, because as I said, a module item is always tightly bound to his parent and cannot be activated separately or sold separately.
Yeah, by the way, just a remark to the order specific mode. In case of the bundles, the order specific mode is very handy because you need to set, as you remember from Jörg, you need to set the features or the options for every component. In case of the inheritance of the module item and parent, usually you only need to set the options on the parent, and you don't need to distribute them because they are automatically inherited. And so this order specific mode merge is something which is less important, because usually you use the inheritance and you don't need to write this to the modules itself. But let's now create a license. Let's pick a license which is comparable to this. I think we selected the first 3 modules and we used 5 seats for the beginning. Okay, now let's take 6666 instead of 777. We will create the ticket. And now let's go to license portal. Let's enter the ticket here. Oops, there was a mistake. The given ticket is invalid because it doesn't start with an dot. And if we enter the right ticket, we see it here. We can activate the licenses. I think I should choose a new container so that we have it clearly. Okay. So, and if we take a look at this new container, the container is the 546 web admin. We see here that we have now the major item and our parent item with the children, and the children are smaller. The 5 is inherited from the parent, and now this is how a module item or module items look in CodeMeter runtime.
Yeah, and here you see you have this tightly connection between parent and children. As with the bundles, the next question would be, how can I add a feature to this container?
Okay, so in this case, I would say I will create a new order. I need to know it's for customer 666. I will use the existing ticket and say, okay, I want to create a new license. This is this license. It should replace the old license. And in this case, what did we do in the past? We said we want to add a feature. So we have the same features that we had before, and we want to add the Python language. And we also need to enter the amount of seats once again. And so what we see here with the replace, we create a new license and saying we want to remove the old license and substitute it with the new license. This means in this case, we can add a feature like the Python language. We can, in the same time, we can also remove a feature. You remember that we discussed that removing a feature is not that easy if we're using bundles, but with module items and replace, it's very easy and simple to remove it. And if we want to change the license quantity, we can set it to 6. We can even downgrade it to 4. So we have the same process for all the different actions. And let's say we want to do it first. We say, okay, we want to add one feature. Okay, this is what we did, by the way, with the other sample as well. In this case, it sticks with the same ticket. In this case, it should stick with the same ticket. I need to re-enter the ticket once again here. Let's go for auto update. The number of the newly created container is 546. Check for updates. Here we have it. Transfer license updates now. And now the updates are in the container. And this was, so now we added one license here. So you see now the Python language is added. And if we now want to change the amount of licenses, we can do this. We could have done this in one step, but let's assume that we wanted to do this in 2 steps, because there's a time between the purchase of the new license and between the change of the features. Replaces a license, and here, and in this case, this, and let's say we want to change it to 4, so that we even can show that reduction is possible. Okay, and okay. In the portal, we will now see there's a new auto update. And if we transfer the auto update now, we will see that our changed licenses are now inside of the container.
But you see that with this replace mechanism, we add one additional requirement to your backend system, because for the replace order, you always need to know the complete setup of your license. That means if you want to remove something, you still need to know what was in there beforehand, and it's not possible to say, oh, I just add one to in the license quantity. You need to do the calculation beforehand and say, okay, he had 5, now he has only 4, or he has 6. So therefore, that's the requirement for the backend system. You need to know the complete license setup there, and that's why it's sometimes not possible from in the sales processes, like I mentioned before. And with this, you then should switch to bundles.
Yeah, the last question to create a bundle, to add a feature, to add or change the license quantity with a plus, to remove a feature, to decrement the license quantity. What happens if I want to rehost the license from one computer to another? Due to the fact that it is one construct, everything is located in one ticket, so there's no way to split this into multiple tickets. We need to enter this one ticket. We click on rehost licenses, and also the probability of making mistakes in the configuration, that maybe one item like Python is not rehostable, is not there. So you can simply say, I want to deactivate everything, and then I want to activate this feature-based license somewhere else. Let's create a new container. I will remove the older containers from my system. I will remove this. I will remove this as well. I will remove this as well. So get container automatically. And with this one click, all the licenses or the complete set of features is transferred. And in case of the bundles, all the changes need to be taken. And what we couldn't show you is, if you forget something, then you could create something completely different, unexpected. And in case of this module items, and the children parents, you definitely take the whole construct as it is, and the user could not make any mistake.
Yeah. Let's go back to the presentation and take a look at the false friends and the best practices. We tried to do it in similar order as with the series, the second part of this webinar series. And there we had one point, update and update add, and there we stated use replace if possible. In this webinar, we say if you have module items and you want to do update and update add, use replace no if possible. Rüdiger mentioned before that I always speak of update hell, and that would be exactly the case if you use update add it with module items.
Yeah, multiple items or multiple product codes per item is something that we don't recommend. And here you saw that with this necessary include of a feature into a bundle or into a module item, you can realize having multiple product codes in one sold item, and this is the way how we recommend it.
Yeah. Another false friend would be the feature map. It hints from the name that it is exactly targeted to enable different features in the license, but as we explained in the overview, you have a limited usage for feature-based licenses because you only have 32 bits, and you have less security, and therefore as well the recommendation use bundles or module items.
We also don't recommend to use the extended protected data or protected data to implement your own feature-based licensing, because it offers less security and it's contrary to the existing features of CodeMeter Runtime and CodeMeter License Central, like merging items, adding features, removing features, having different options for different features. And also here the recommendation is use bundles and module items.
There is one special point regarding bundles. As we mentioned, a bundle is just a logical grouping of default items, and the default items could have component because it's a bundle. And CodeMeter License Central allows to put a bundle item inside of another bundle. And then you have a bundling depth larger than one. And this is something that gets very fast, very complex, and you lose the knowledge what is activated when, and there's the recommendation, try to avoid this.
Yeah, and last but not least, if you want to do borrowing, the recommendation is to use module items, and this will be a part of the fourth part of our webinar series about License Central. Maybe not the next, but in one of the next webinars, we will show you how to use the borrowing using the module items. And with this, we come to the summary, and the question is to bundle or to nest. And as we explained, it depends on your processes and workflows. And let's summarize the bundles. They exist only in CodeMeter License Central, so runtime does not know that they belong together. It's a flat list of licenses in the CodeMeter container, in the CodeMeter runtime. There are no relations between the different items. There is no inheritance because of this. You can easily update, add single features. It simplifies the sales process, at least in most of the workflows. And you can borrow single features, so they are completely independent from stuff in the runtime, and all the features are as single products. And so it's more or less putting them together in CodeMeter License Central and keeping them separate in the runtime.
Yeah, and if we take a look at module items, with the module items, we have a grouping in CodeMeter License Central and in CodeMeter Runtime. You saw after transferring the license into the container on the target system, you had the grouping there as well. You have the inheritance mechanism, and that's a quite big feature for the module items, because you need to set values only once, and all the modules in your software product have the same values. Recommendation is clearly use replace in CodeMeter License Central. Everything else doesn't really work with module items. What we didn't show you in the demo is the same module item can be used multiple times. So if you have different products, for example, a subscription, a floating license, or perpetual, you can use the same module items in all of these parents. When we take a look at the bundle, you may have noticed we had the one sample for the floating license, and we had one default item for every feature. And if we want to have a second product, for example, with an expiration time, we need to do all the default items as well. And with the module items, we have only one set of module items that are reused in every product. Due to the inheritance, we need less memory in the CM container, which is especially for the dongles sometimes a benefit. And borrowing of licenses is much easier, because you only need to borrow the parent and not every single feature. But as Rüdiger already mentioned, this is something we will show you in one of the next webinars when it comes to part 4 of this series.
One additional remark to the less memory. It also needs less cryptographic signatures, and this means that the performance of the programming of module items with the same amount of features is faster than the programming or creating of licenses like a bundle, because there's only one signature for the complete license or for the features. And in case of the bundles, there is one signature for every single feature, making the cryptographic operations in the background taking longer.
So let's take a look at the questions we did not already answer during the webinar directly in the chat. There was one answer. We always mentioned replace and module items, but wouldn't it be possible to use replace for bundles as well?
Of course, it's also possible to use replace for bundles. In this case, it depends a little bit on the activation mode. And so if you say the activation mode is merged, then it has the same behavior that we saw with the module items. So you have a bundle with activation mode merge, and then you replace it with a new bundle, also activation mode merge with less features or with less license quantity, and then you would get exactly the same behavior that we have from the module items. If you have activation mode separate, in this case, at the end, you will have separate entries in License Central, in Web Depot, in the CodeMeter runtime, and then you could as well replace one single line. And this is possible, but the typical use case is more replace for the module items and update add for the bundles, but replace also, of course, works with bundles.
Another question was why we always spoke of update hell in combination with module items and update add. As I mentioned, a module item can not be sold separately. So if you want to update a single item, for example, you have some item with an individual unit counter and you want to add 5 units, then you would need to model this as an update add, but you still need a parent to update add this single module item. And therefore, it's really gets very fast. You have an overflow of items in your CodeMeter License Central because of all these different updates. Think of our simple item with 6 module items. You would have 6 additional update add items in your License Central and of course in your backend system to activate or sell all these licenses. And therefore our recommendation is don't use this, just use the replace mechanism to keep your item structure lean.
And the last open question, is it possible to use a bundle with different container types? Jörg, I'm not sure, is this possible?
It should be possible in the one way. So if you have a component item with more containers than the parent item, it should work. But the other way around, it can't work because just think of the scenario, you have an item that can only be activated to a container and you add this as a component to a bundle item where you can support CMX licenses as well. And now you want to activate this bundle item to a CMX license, then the item, the component item couldn't be activated because it only supports CM dongle. So the other way around works, but this can't work, and CodeMeter License Central doesn't allow it at all. So if it finds a mismatch between the component containers and the bundle item containers, you get an error during the save process. Another question is if we send a raw file to the customer, if we can decide if we can get more features or if we then need to send another raw file.
So yes, if you want to change the license, even if the user wants to have more features, you send another raw file. And the good thing is if you're using CodeMeter License Central, License Central stores the status of the container. And so you, let's say you activate licenses with raw and everything is fine. And then the user wants to have more features. You can create a push update, so you don't need to have a new RAC file. You simply create a new raw file on base of all the stuff here. Bundles, module items, both work. You send the raw file. And then if your customer decides, oh, I want to have even more features, you go to License Central, create a new raw file, and License Central is that smart that it finds out, oh, there is one raw file where we didn't get a receipt. So we put both raw files together. So what you will get is a merged file, which includes the first update with the first features and the second update with this additional set of features. And then you send the new raw file to the customer, and then completely independent, if the user already imported or not imported the first update file. CodeMeter Runtime is as well smart enough. So CodeMeter Runtime finds out, oh, there are 2 updates. The first update was already imported, yes, no. If it was imported, I will simply skip it. If it was not imported, I will take it. And then I take the second update. And so both work hand in hand together, Runtime and License Central, to make sure that no update is missing.
So that have been all questions that have been still open. I hope you enjoyed the webinar, and we could tell you something you can use in your projects. Maybe we see us in one of your projects. I hope you enjoy the rest of the week. Have a nice day, evening, wherever you are in the world. Until then, bye-bye.
Same from you. Have a nice day. Bye bye.